Tired of bloating, fatigue and sluggish digestion? Meet your gut's new best friend, NutriHealth 365's microbiome supplement. Restore balance, boost immunity, and feel amazing from the inside out. Smart delay release capsules. Real results. Gut health just got personal.
This morning on Trending, digital ID in the UK, a little known Sex Pistols B-side. Wind farms don't work if it's windy. The UK recognises Palestine and Al-Qaeda at the UN. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Trending. It's Monday. Hope you're ready for another week in the asylum. As always, brought to you in association with NutriHealth 365. The link is in the description below, so give that a click and check them out. Digital ID in the UK. It's a secret no one's been talking about. Starmer set to announce digital ID cards within days to curb illegal migration. The illegal migration that he and his predecessors in the Conservative Party and their predecessors in the Labour Party have all enabled and encouraged. The Prime Minister looks set, he does look set, I've seen him, he looks set to announce the launch of digital ID cards in an attempt to clamp down on illegal immigration. Insiders, who are they? Doesn't matter. Insiders say Keir Starmer plans to announce the digital ID scheme at the next Labour conference, which is due to begin on September the 28th. I mean, it says due to begin. I would imagine that it's pretty much locked in to begin, isn't it? I assume they've booked the conference hall and everything at this point. We're in September already. However, details of the scheme are still being fine-tuned, and the announcement date could shift. It could shift. Starmer reportedly believes digital ID could act as a deterrent for illegal migrants trying to settle in the UK. I don't know. I think sort of housing them, that might kind of outweigh that in terms of the incentive. Starmer reportedly believes digital ID cards could act as a deterrent. No, he doesn't. The plans have been given a ready show of support, of course they have, by cabinet members in recent weeks, ahead of the expected announcement at the conference. Ministers have backed the proposals after outrage. Everyone was outraged over migrants gaining work illegally as Deliveroo and Just Eat delivery drivers. To be honest, I don't think people were overly bothered about them being Deliveroo drivers. I mean, they probably were a bit. They're probably more bothered about the ones that aren't getting any work and are just stood on street corners getting up to no good. When I saw this news story yesterday afternoon, I was like, imagine my shock. I'm trying to think of my shocked face. There. That's what I looked like when I saw this. There are few things more predictable than a politician, to be honest. But the reason is, this whole thing is part of it. This whole leaked. It was leaked to the press. No, it wasn't. It wasn't leaked to the press. This is how they do these things. They drip feed the information out to their friends in the media, which is a problem for me anyway. The fact that these politicians have friends in the media. They shouldn't have friends in the media. It's not your job as a journalist to be friends with politicians. Your job is to hold them to account and to report the truth to the population, who these politicians are supposed to serve. We all know they don't, but they're meant to. So it's always a red flag for me, and it doesn't matter what government. Doesn't matter what government. Boris had his friends in the media as well. Shouldn't be mates. It's not about friendship, because there's a conflict of interest then, because you've got to write articles about your friends. But what they do, they drip feed this stuff to their friends in the media for two reasons. One is to gauge public opinion. They want to see how people react to it, because if the reaction is too against it, too bad, then they kind of backpedal slightly and go, okay, we still want it, so we're still going to come back with it, but we've not quite softened them up enough yet, so we'll kind of blah, blah, blah. And then the conference will happen, reportedly might happen, on the 28th of September, and he won't announce it. And everyone go, oh, I thought he was going to announce digital ID. He didn't. Oh, all right. Well, yeah, that's because they spent the week gauging public opinion. Perfect example of that was when they wanted to lock down. Again, this is a Tory government and this is a Labour government because they're two cheeks of the same arse. Stick reform in there, you got three arse cheeks. So it doesn't actually matter who it is. But the Tories did it, where they locked down the country on the Christmas of 2020. They wanted to lock down the country again on the Christmas of 2021, if you remember. But obviously throughout, the end of 2020 and then massively throughout 2021, particularly in the March and April, the protest movement in England was enormous. It was growing. It wasn't a few hundred people in a park. It was tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, in the March and April of 2021. Things had sort of started to go back a little bit. People were going out to the pubs, Eat Out to Help Out, and all those schemes. And so people started having conversations, and conversations went like, do you know anyone? No, I don't either. No. Weird, isn't it? It is weird, isn't it? And so at that point, people weren't buying it anymore. So when they wanted to lock down in December 2021 for the Christmas, they did this same thing. They leaked it out to their mates in the media. This is what Boris is planning. This is what they're planning. And all they were doing was gauging public opinion. And the public said, no, mate, it's not going to happen. And so the government was left with a choice. We lock down anyway, and they ignore us. And we show our hand, which is that we have no real power because everything is about consent. And if they're not consenting, what can we do? We can't set the police on them because there's not enough of them. That these outnumber us enormously. And so if we lock down, we show the people of this nation, and indeed the world, where the true power lies. And we can't have that. So they didn't lock down. Boris came out and said, yeah, we've decided not to lock down. You didn't decide, Boris. You didn't decide. You were faced with a choice, which was don't lock down or be completely ruined. So you went with we won't lock down. So that's an element of it as well with this digital ID about gauging public opinion. The other, which works, in a different way, is about just sort of drip feeding the information out there. So it's not a shock. You imagine if you didn't have all these stories being leaked, then suddenly Starmer comes out and announces digital ID. That would be a shock. And people go, whoa, hang on. No chance, mate. Where's that come from? So you feed it out and you feed it out and you feed it out. Because what that does is it creates an inevitability about it, which is what they want. Because that inevitability goes out there. You have all the ministers being interviewed, and all the media bobbleheads, mainstream media bobbleheads, including the ones from alternative outlets like GB News, basically doing their sales pitch for digital ID. It's just another form of ID. Oh, mate, you use a passport, don't you? Yeah, and a driving license. Yeah. Okay. So it lets them do that, buys them a bit of time. But what the inevitability does, which is the main point of it, is it creates an apathy towards it. Creates an apathy within the population of, and I've seen this because I tweeted about this yesterday about the fact that, not having it. And even some of the people coming back to me that I'm aligned with on a lot of things, not all, but a lot, was saying, I don't see how we stop this. They're going to do it anyway. And you're like, that's what they want you to feel. That's how they want you to think. That's what this leaking to the press does. It bombards it. He's going to announce it. It's going to happen. He's going to introduce it. As if, what are you going to do about it, mate? Say no. That's what we're going to do. But what because they do this every time, is they make it in your interests. I've said this multiple times, but I'm going to repeat it again because I'm boring like that. Left and right, again, it's confusing in terms of what is left and what is right anymore. I spent my whole life being called a southern softy leftist. Now I'm far right. My views haven't changed. You do you, hun, as long as it doesn't negatively impact anyone else. But let's go with the traditional left and right for the sake of this point. A lot of the people on the so-called left that supported the COVID mandates and all that draconian imposition, you don't really need to persuade them to go with digital ID. They tend to just sort of be a bit, yeah, I'll be all right. Don't worry about it. Not everything's a conspiracy. If you're not doing anything wrong, you've got nothing to worry about. You've heard it all before, all that stuff. Whereas those more on the right, they're the ones that would be opposed to digital ID. Overall, with a few exceptions, those were the ones that stood up to the COVID tyranny, right? So you need to get them on side with digital ID. So what you need to do is use an excuse that they care about. And what they care about is mass immigration. So that's why Starmer's using that as the excuse, because he's using that as a little fishing rod to try and hook those people in on the right that would be against digital ID. But it's so obvious that we need to call it out for what it is. Another thing I think we might see in the lead up, maybe in the next week, maybe further down the line in terms of trying to introduce this digital ID, if they do announce it in a week or so and it's, met with backlash, as it should be, and they do need to curl back round, they're going to try and find more reasons. They'll go, they're not going to buy it yet. Okay, come, drop back. We'll circle back with some more reasons why they need it. And I bet you it will be terrorism. I bet you it will be terrorism. Because they always sell things as being in your best interests and for your safety. So we take away all your freedoms, we take away your ability to do X, Y, and Z, but it's for you. I'm doing it. I don't want to do it. I'm doing it for you. And then, of course, once they've got that stuff in the door, then it expands and it expands and expands. That's the whole point of digital ID, that everything would be on there. All your medical records would be on there. Whether your kids are vaccinated or not, whether you've had your 40-second booster, all this stuff will all be connected to that. And if your compliance score, if you don't tick enough boxes, then you will be excluded from society. And that's how they'll do it. Imagine if they had the digital ID during the COVID era when they were trying to say to you, you can't go here or you can't go there and you can't do this and you can't do that unless you're vaccinated. Well, there wasn't really anything in place at that point to kind of make that happen. You were basically relying on some guy on the door of a nightclub who didn't really care anyway to say whether you could come in or not. Whereas once you've got this sort of stuff in place and everything is digital, computer says, no, mate, sorry, can't travel. China as an example, can't travel, can't use public transport. This digital ID will morph into your social credit system. That's what it's meant for. That's what it's about. It's about controlling what you can and can't do. And they will connect it to your social media. Every day of the week, they'll connect it to your social media. They'll sell that as basically proving your identity and age so that kids can't go on to different social medias to keep kids safe, because everything's about keeping people safe. But that's not what it's about. Same as the online harms bill. It's sold as keeping kids safe. These people couldn't care less about kids. Another example of this, actually, is just something I've just seen in the last few days, where a lot of banks are now limiting withdrawals for over 65s. So you can only take 500 quid a day out from the bank if you're over 65. It's sold, again, to keep over 65 safe from scammers. So a scammer can't make someone go to the bank and pay, 30 grand or 5 grand or whatever and lose their whole entire savings. They can only do 500 quid. So they sell it as like, we're protecting granny. Or have I heard that before? You go, yeah, but it's granny's money. So yes, you're selling it as protecting granny from scammers, but what you're really doing is you're limiting her access to her money. It's her money. It's not yours. If granny wants to walk in the bank and take the lot, she should be allowed to. It's hers. So you bring these rules in and people go, well, yeah, but that's nice though. That's good. That stops granny being scammed. What if granny wants something for 750 quid? What if granny wants to give £1,000 to each of her 3 grandkids? And she wants to do it today? It should be her right. It's her money. Yeah, but we're just protecting. I've been saying for a while now, this is the hill to die on. Whilst I don't overly like that term, because really want to die on the hill. I want to just stand on the hill and bark and then watch digital ID disappear into the ocean where it belongs. But we do need to stand up, folks, and call me a conspiracy theorist. This should be something that brings all sides together. You know, political allegiances, religious allegiances, you know, sexualities, colours, creeds, whatever. All the things that we're told make us different from each other. We should have at least this in common, that we go, no, this is actually really bad. And it's not just bad for me, it's bad for all of us. So we should stand up and fight against this. So we need to unite. So with my tinfoil hat on, I don't think it's a coincidence that the powers that be are choosing a time when this country, at least it feels like, hasn't been this divided before, or certainly not in a long, long time. A time where it's less likely to unite because everyone's got beef with everyone else about nonsense most of the time. So it's almost like they're stood there and they go, no, they're all fighting each other. They're all fighting each other. Yeah, we've manipulated it, but this is a perfect time to try and introduce something, because for them to fight back against it, they're going to need to unite. And I don't think they're going to unite, not at the moment. But it should unite us. And, you know, we can go back to fighting tomorrow. Or not. I mean, I'd rather not. But, you know, it was the same during COVID. I know I keep talking about COVID, and I hear all the time from people, oh, you're still going on about it. Well, yeah, I am going on about it because no one's been punished for it. So I'm not going to shut up until people have been punished for it. And also, it isn't over for a large number of people. A large number of people that are vaccine injured, for one, but also a large number of people that lost their livelihoods and their businesses. And kids that are still struggling with mental health issues as a result of it. I still see kids walking around with masks on now. It's mad. People driving around with them on. I mean, it's good to identify who's, you know, who's gone, but still. I actually feel for these people, genuinely. And not in a patronizing way, but I do. So it's not over yet. So I'll still talk about COVID because I think it's perfect to example as well, because it was when these people came out of the shadows. Now, a lot of us have been pointing out that these people are in the shadows, but a lot of others are like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. You sound mad, sound crazy. Whereas at that point, you were literally following arrows around Tesco's, mate. So that there wasn't these invisible prison bars anymore. They were literally right there for everyone to see. So it's a great example because then people came together, not in the beginning, annoyingly, but it grew and it grew and it swelled. And as I mentioned earlier, that's why they didn't lock down for Christmas, because people are actually united. And you had these amazing protests in London, which people were arguing at the time, well, it won't change government policy. No, I know. I'm well aware of that. That's not really what a protest is about, to be honest, most of the time. It's about getting lots and lots of people together and building a bond and a unity that then sends those people back into their different areas of the country, reinvigorated and ready to fight, as opposed to being despondent and so many people in different parts of the country that were coming up to me at the protest that were just like, do you know what I mean? I'm on my own. My wife's not talking to me. Everyone at work thinks I'm a lunatic and a granny killer. I'm on my own. Like, even my old football lads don't invite me out for a pint anymore or whatever. There was loads of different stories of these people. And they were like, I just decided to come along, never been to a protest before. And they turn up in London and they see tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And they're like, mate, I am not on my own. No, I am not being gaslit. No, I'm not going to fall into line just because Dave at the office wants me to. No, balls to that, mate. And they would go back and would be, you know, recharged and ready to go again. And so, you know, it united so many people, and that terrifies the establishment, and it terrified the establishment then. At the start, the media was trying to say, look, far-right rally, and I've said it so many times, it's like there's two hijabs in the image on the front of the paper. It's not a far-right rally, and if it is, it's not a very good one. And that terrified the establishment. So what they don't want is for the people to unite again against digital ID. But we need to. It's so important, honestly, because if this comes in and it's a huge step. It's another huge step towards this digital dystopia, this cashless society. They're already killing off cash anyway. And again, COVID was used as a perfect excuse to kill off cash. Suddenly you find yourself in a position where if you're persona non grata because of your opinions online, suddenly, you go into a shop to buy something, computer says no. Now if computer says no, you go, that's weird, card's not working, that's strange. Use cash or whatever. When that's gone, computer says no, you ain't buying it. Simple as that. And people will listen to this and go, well, those maybe on the left side, fear of generalizing, but it has been over the years, the woke side, although to be fair, the woke right's getting bigger. If you're not doing anything wrong, why does it matter? We shouldn't be allowing these parts of society to walk among us or whatever. Action should have consequences. Words should have consequences. All these usual people. And you go, well, okay. Well, they target a certain demographic at the beginning to try and sell something to get it over the line. So in this instance, they're trying to target or sell the idea of trying to target illegal immigrants so that they will get people going, well, I don't care about them anyway. Shouldn't be here. Good. Yeah. But it's not going to be reserved for them, is it? In fact, it probably won't even be used for them. And that's why when they were pushing or are pushing this technology where they basically spray this DNA water on skin so that they can identify who people are and where they're going. It's like dead dystopian. They targeted football hooligans. And I said this before on the show because no one's got any skin in the game for football hooligans. So that's how they sell it. Yeah, good. Football hooligans are idiots. Yeah, it's not going to be reserved for them, is it? Because no one ever aligns with the state on everything. So throughout COVID, those on the left that were aligning with the state, calling us all COVID idiots and granny killers and dangerous far-right anti-vaxxer extremists and all this sort of stuff, they were winning, right? They were winning at that point because they were getting their own way. So loads of us were getting deleted off of social media and banned and suspended, and people lost their jobs and livelihoods and all that kind of stuff. And they were winning at that point because they were aligned with what the state was telling them, which is stay home and be terrified of nothing. But then after October 7th, this is where I find myself totally lost because I'm in between both camps in certain things because I'm not tribal. I take things on their merit. They then start talking out on behalf of Palestine, largely on the left, people on the right too, but mainly on the left. I mean, the right is growing now because there's only so many dismembered children you can see before you actually start to realize that Israel is a terrorist state. But they then start talking out about what's going on in Gaza and stuff, and then they start getting shut down and attacked. Well, yeah, because you're not aligning with the state at that point. And that's how these digital IDs and these social credit systems, which will be brought in off the back of it, that's how they will work. If you're a good little boy or girl, you're fine. If you're not a good little boy or girl, you're not fine. And the parameters of what make you a good little boy or girl change. So even if you're winning now and cheering it on, you won't be winning tomorrow, mate. And who's going to be there to speak up for you then? Do you know what I mean? It goes back to the first they came for. And you said nothing. So even if you don't align with people on the right, and people on the right, even if you don't align with people on the left and centrists and none of the abovers, whatever you identify yourself as, fighting back against digital ID is a must. An absolute must. Okay, so that's all for the social media section of trending. If you head over to Iconic now, the exact link to the episode is in the description below. You can continue watching for free on iconic.com.